I think all three of these teams we're going to talk about in this video, they have the potential to beat any team on any given Saturday. College football has been insanely entertaining this season, and we're only 4 weeks in. We've seen big-time programs already fire their head coach. We've seen unreal upsets, and I just think we're getting started. I strongly believe we're on pace to have one of the best college football seasons in a very, and I mean a very long time. This is just the beginning, but whoa. Hold on. What makes a good college football season? What makes a legendary season that people are going to remember for years and years and years? That's right, you said it in your head. Everybody right now watching this video, you're thinking the exact same thing. Upsets, and more upsets. Say that 3 times in a row. That's a tongue twister. That's what makes the sport so amazing and fun to watch. You can see a team on paper that has no business and they shouldn't even have a shot of winning the game, and yet they do. Game-winning field goals, missed field goals, blocked punts, blocked extra points, Hail Marys, kick sixes, anything. That's what makes the sport amazing. But how do we get to the Hail Mary? How do we get to the game-winning field goal? You got to have a sneaky good team who can play as good as the big boys on any given Saturday. And in today's video, we're going to talk about some sneaky good teams in college football that no team wants to play. We're not doing no intro, none of that. It's simple. We're on the road 300K, so if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. It's free. You can always unsub later. All right, Matt, blah. Shut the crap up now without further ado. Let's get into it. Seriously though, there's a bunch you watching right now and you've been watching, you're just simply not subscribed. Consider subscribing, I appreciate it. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I am beyond excited for this video because we're gonna talk about the teams that doesn't get all the media coverage, like an Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, USC, Clemson, or any team like that. The teams we're gonna talk about today are the teams that barely get any TV time, nobody talks about them, and they're gonna get all the attention in this video. And the reason I'm personally excited for it, because yes, I understand you guys want me to talk about the top dogs, because that's what everybody wants to know about, but it's nice to give the smaller teams some love. In reality, these teams aren't even small, they're just teams that many people don't mention when it comes to being great. Starting it off hot though with the 11th ranked team in the country that is sneaking on up the boards, we got Penn State. Penn State right now is one of those teams that nobody's talking about, and week after week they continue to climb up the rankings. I do want to clarify this before we go any farther. I'm not saying any of these teams we're going to talk about in this video, they're going to contend for the college football playoff. I'm just saying they're sneaky teams that no team wants to play. It's simple. I think all 3 of these teams we're going to talk about in this video, they have the potential to beat any team on any given Saturday. Getting back on track with Penn State, let's just start off with their first 4 games so I can show you and give you a perspective. In their first one, they won a tight one that maybe they shouldn't have won against Purdue 35-31. There were some questionable plays here and there. Long story short, they pulled it out. Winners win. Right after that, beat Ohio 46-10, and after that, the game where I really was like, okay, maybe they're much better than what I thought. They destroyed Auburn on a primetime 2:30 game on CBS, 41-12. That was the game where I was like, okay, if Sean Clifford is on his A game, and he was in that game, I think they can beat anybody. We'll talk about that in just a second. And recently, in this past Saturday, they beat Central Michigan. Not a big game, but still won by 19 points. I have said this before, but I have to say it again, because when you talk about this Penn State team, you have to bring it up. This team will only go as far as Sean Clifford can take them. And the reason I say that is because if you're a Penn State fan, you know exactly what I mean by this. The Sean Clifford experience is one of the most, is that even a word? I don't know. It's one of the wildest rides I've ever seen. He either plays like horse crap or he plays like 2019 Joe Burrow. No in-betweens. I don't know what it is. Sometimes he'll make one of the stupidest passes, one of the worst interceptions you'll ever see, and have you scratching your head wanting to bench him. Then in the next game, he'll go 23 for 25 with 3 touchdowns. The only word to describe it is wild. He threw a pick 6 to Purdue, then right after that, he leads them on a game-winning touchdown drive. Who does that? I'm going to point back to this game, though, because I think it is the biggest game that Penn State has played so far. Sean Clifford took a Penn State team on the road in the SEC for a primetime game and won by 30 points. Granted, you got to throw this in there. Auburn sucks, and I mean they really suck. They should have lost last week against Missouri, but that's a different conversation for a different day. If you saw that Missouri and Auburn game, you know what I'm talking about. That pissed me off, and I'll leave it at that. As sorry and as pitiful Auburn has been the past 2 years, the only bright side on that team is their defense. So yes, I thought Penn State was going to win this game, but I didn't think they'd win it the way they did. I was expecting to see Sean Clifford make some bad plays or maybe a bad throw here and there. It's the fact that he didn't. It's the fact that he was so calm, cool, and collected, And I guess the reason he's so calm, cool, and collected is because he's been playing college football for 7 years now. I'm so tired of the super senior and extra COVID year, but that's a different conversation for a different day as well. The point is, even though Sean Clifford is 27 years old, he's looking good. And if Sean Clifford is looking good, if he is on his A game, I think they can beat anybody. The reason for that is because they also have a freshman running back, Singleton. If you haven't seen him, go watch him play. He's unreal. Singleton is arguably a top 15 running back in the country right now, and he hasn't even played that much. An area for concern for me, and it's not even a slight concern, it's a real and legit concern, is the Penn State defense. I'm not too sold on them, but taking a look at their schedule, we're going to find out if this team is a fluke or the real deal, because they play Michigan and Ohio State back-to-back. Oh, wait, my bad. It's not back-to-back. They play Michigan, Minnesota, then Ohio State. My fault. Regardless, you still got to play 2 of the top 4 teams in the country in a 3-week span. I think they have a good shot of beating Michigan or Ohio State. Before the season, I wouldn't dare say that, but after watching them play, I have no problem. Am I saying it's going to happen? Am I saying Penn State's going to go 14-0 and make the playoff? No, but they are a team to keep your eyes on. Moving on to our second sneaky good team, and I already know you guys are going to love this one. It's the fan favorite. Everybody's talking about them. We got Kansas. Oh man, I know a bunch of you Kansas fans. You're going to be happy with this. You are finally getting some recognition, and it's deserved. This is not a participation trophy. I actually mean this. Very oddly similar to Penn State, they haven't beat a ranked team. They haven't played a ranked team, but I think they have one solid and one great win, and that's against West Virginia, 55-42. They won that game in overtime, and for those of you that haven't watched West Virginia play this year, they could easily be 4-0. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and I know it's weird to say this, but West Virginia is easily the best 2-2 team in the country. They should have won the first game against Pittsburgh. JT Daniels threw a pick 6 when it hit his wide receiver in the face that lost him the game, and against Kansas, they could have won, but it went in overtime. I personally also think West Virginia is a scary good team, but I've already talked about them this year. The fact that Kansas went into West Virginia's home stadium and beat that team, and if you watch football, you know West Virginia is a solid and good team. That impressed me. Kansas is also sitting at 4-0, but their other 3 wins I'll show you right here. Tennessee Tech, not that good. Houston, also not that good. And Duke, it's Duke. They're a basketball school. The meat and bones of their real schedule is starting to come up because they are entering conference play. And the Big 12, that's a good conference. Whoa. Hold on. I know exactly what you're sitting there saying. Yo, Matt, why is Kansas a sneaky good team? This is just a fluke run. They've been terrible the past 10 years. Well, my friend, I'm glad you asked that question. I agree with the second part. They have been piss poor the past 10 years, but this year, it's different, and for one player and one player only. Jalon Daniels. Remember the name. Jalon Daniels is their quarterback, who right now is the best quarterback in the country, at least when it comes to QBR. He's not second, he's not third, he's not fourth, he's not fifth, he's not sixth. He's the number 1 quarterback in the country in QBR, right at 98. For those of you that don't know, QBR is based on a scale of 1 to 100, 50 being average. Obviously, yes, I'm not going to lie and try to hype it up. His numbers do look good because he hasn't played great competition. I'm sure as we continue to go in Big 12 play, that QBR will drop a little. However, I also got to throw this in there. He can't control who he plays. All he can control is how he plays, and he's been playing fantastic. Nearly 900 yards passing on the year, 11 touchdowns to only 1 interception. Can't ask for much more. I could go on and rave about this kid. I think you get the point. His numbers do enough talking. He's special. Can't forget to throw this in there. Their leading rusher is also a great player. Ironically enough, it's the same guy. It's Jalon Daniels. It goes without being said, similar to Sean Clifford and Penn State, Kansas will only go as far as Mr. Jalon Daniels can take them. I think that's even more so for Jalon because Sean Clifford at Penn State, he can have a bad game, and I think Penn State can overcome that. For Kansas, no, Jalon's got to play perfect to win. Why is this a sneaky good team, though? Why should people be worried? This is Kansas. They don't have that much talent. That is also correct, but here's the thing with Kansas. They have a chip on their shoulder, and they're starting to believe. What is one of the biggest things I've stated on this channel, and it's starting to become a catchphrase? Winners win, losers lose. Can't explain it, can't dumb it down to more than that. A winner is always going to find a way to win, even if they shouldn't, and a loser is always going to find a way to lose. A great example of that is Scott Frost at Nebraska. There's a reason they lost 15-something games by 1 score more, because they're losers. Vice versa. There's a reason Alabama won that game against Texas when they shouldn't, because they're winners. Winners win. I brought that up because it leads me to my next point perfectly. The players, the coaching staff, everybody around Kansas, they're starting to believe. They're like, wait a minute, hold on. We don't gotta be just a basketball school. We can win football games. They're now getting used to winning. Now, I'm not saying they're gonna go 11-1, but I think this team is easily gonna win 8 or 9 games. With that being said, if you take a look at their schedule right here, you see they got a lot of big-time schools on this list, so I also believe they're gonna upset some of these teams. Speaking of upset, this week at home against Iowa State, they're an underdog. I would pick Kansas to win this game based off of what I've seen, but hey, I guess we'll have to wait and see. This Kansas team is one of the perfect teams right now that could cause complete chaos in the Big 12, and right now they're leading it. You could see this Kansas team upset an Oklahoma, a Texas like last year, a Baylor, or Oklahoma State. And quite frankly, if they're an underdog to Iowa State at home, I also believe they're going to be an underdog the rest of the way out. I kind of get the vibe, though, they don't mind being an underdog. They relish the opportunity to be an underdog and going, hey, you don't believe in us? Okay, it doesn't bother us. We're just going to go out there and prove you wrong. I think this team enjoys being the underdog, and they're having an incredible season, and it's just getting started. I don't even have to say keep your eyes on Kansas, because I think everyone around the country, they're starting to pay attention. Moving on to our next sneaky good team. It's also a team that nobody's talking about, nobody's giving credit to or respect to. We got Washington coming in at number 15 in the AP poll. I'm starting to like this Washington team. I really am. I went back and watched the film, and I think arguably they got a legit case in stating they're not even behind USC. They're the best team in the Pac-12. I will explain why I believe that, but I'm going to show you their first 4 games so you can get somewhat of a perspective. In their opening game against Kent State, beat them 45-20, and before you try to discredit that win, remember last week, who did Georgia struggle with? Kent State. And if you want to be a nerd and get all scientifical with me, Washington beat Kent State more than Georgia beat Kent State. So a lot of people would try to make that silly joke and argument, well, oh, I guess that means Washington's better than Georgia. I'm not going to do all that, but I think it's worth mentioning. Don't even try to discredit that Kent State game. Right after that, easy win against Portland State. But then the game that had me paying attention, they obliterated Michigan State 39-28. And I know that you're sitting there saying, yo, Matt, what do you mean obliterated? And trust me, it was not that close. Michigan scored 14 points in the fourth quarter to make the score look more reasonable, but this game was over at halftime. Correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I believe at one point it was 36-9. Yeah, I think it was because I was watching it at that point. I was like, all right, I'm clicking off. This game's over. Michigan State is always overhyped every single year. I'm tired of them being ranked. I don't know why Michigan State is ranked. They should be banned from being ranked at all after what Ohio State did to them when they was in the top 5. Anyways, besides the point, getting back on track with Washington, and their game after that, they beat Stanford 40-22. Stanford is always going to be one of those tough teams, and Washington beat Stanford more than USC beat Stanford by. I don't think they have a strong resume, but similar to Penn State and Kansas, they have one signature win, and that's Michigan State. And in that signature win, it wasn't even close. So I don't understand this. If everybody's going to hype up this mediocre Michigan State team, how come Washington can obliterate them and nobody talks about them? Blows my mind, absolutely blows my mind. But guess what? Why do I think this team is a sneaky good team? The same reason for the others, the quarterback. I think a lot of you are starting to see the trend of this. They have a good quarterback who can take them as far as he can if he's playing really good. Their quarterback is a former Indiana quarterback, and he is playing out of his mind. He currently is first, not second, not third, not fourth, first in the country with 1,388 passing yards. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty good. He also has 12 touchdowns to only 1 interception and QBR of 82.6. Not too shabby. I think Michael Penix is good. I remember watching him at Indiana and I thought he was special. I do also remember last year at Indiana, he did have some interception problems, so I guess he's cleaned that up. I think Washington is sneaky good for one reason. They're going to pass the ball 35 to 40 times a game, and they've made that clear because they've done that about every single game. So you can either A, stop them, or B, they're just going to light you up. If you can stop their passing game more times than not, you're going to win the game, but nobody has stopped it so far. And with them being in the sorry conferences of the Pac-12, I don't think they're going to have too many bumps in the road. Here's a fun fact for you. A lot of you are assuming, oh, Matt, what about USC? They don't even play USC in the regular season. They currently only have one ranked team on their schedule, and that's Oregon. And we all saw what Oregon did against Georgia. They completely wet the bed. I do think Oregon is going to eventually be better than what they showed in week 1, but it's not like they're a powerhouse. I got some good news and some bad news for Washington fans. I think you can beat any team in the Pac-12, not the country, but any team on the Pac-12 any given Saturday. On the contrary, I also believe you can lose to any team in the Pac-12 on any given Saturday. That's how this Washington team is, but thus far, they've looked solid. Out of all these teams we talked about, though, the one team that intrigues me the most has got to be Kansas. I can't wait to see how they play in the up and coming weeks in that Big 12 schedule. I am curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. But,